The California Teachers Association, CTA, and the Institute for Teaching, IFT, present IFT Expo 2015, a series of presentations by IFT Grant recipients.
Okay, hi. My name is Anna Mumford, and I am currently a 4th grade teacher at Cappy Culver Elementary. We're a small rural school, TK through 8, outside of Paso Robles by a little place called Lake Nacimiento, if any of you are familiar with the Central Coast. And this is my 4-5 accelerated class from a couple of years ago, and I'm going to share with you some of the benefits of the IFT grant. My first advice would be to stick with your passion and maybe a project that you've already started, because the IFT grant will be a catalyst to expand it either school-wide or just take your project to the next level. The IFT staff that I've dealt with before, during, and after has been readily available, so any emails that I've sent, especially emails, I get right away answered. The best benefit that I could share with you about the IFT grant, unlike other grants, which I should just ask, has anyone applied for a grant other than the IFT grant, maybe a different grant? Yes. And so when you make a budget for a grant, they hold you to that budget. So you say you want to spend it on this, that's all you get to spend it on. And so when I wrote up the budget for this grant, I had ideas about what I anticipated doing, what I thought I was going to spend it on, and I can go into this a little bit more later, but what happened was when I actually received the grant and had the monies in hand, many of the things that I had budgeted for had already been donated, and then when I went to purchase some of the items, and I'm not exaggerating, they were all on sale. And so I had this $700 surplus that I was like, but I have the money. What, can I still spend it? So I emailed Anita and I asked her, I said, hey, you know, after I got this money, I found out about this local author that wrote a book called Growing Home. It has to do with gardening and children. It tells this beautiful story. She's a local author. I've been in contact with her. Could I buy a set of books for our classroom? I'll make sure the whole school has access to them. And she said, absolutely. So that's just one example of the flexibility of the IFT grant, that it allows you to make a professional decision as long as it falls within the scope and sequence of what you're doing. So I'm going to back up a couple years and tell you about how a colleague of mine encouraged me to look at Pinterest. She said, there's great classroom ideas and crafts. So I got on there and excuse me, what I'd wanted to do with my accelerated class was an outdoor project. I just wasn't sure what I wanted it to be. But I love to garden at home. I don't claim to be a master gardener or expert, but we had this whole strip on the backside of our school that I don't believe they ever finished the landscaping, but they had the irrigation in for it, and I thought, well, that would be easy enough to just unscrew some of these sprinkler heads and run some drip line, and we can do these pallet gardens. That's simple enough, right? They're like already pre-made. And so I called some parents before school started that I knew. We're a small community school. I've had a lot of siblings go through my class. Called some families that I knew. They donated some pallets. We started our class project, which soon became a school garden. It wasn't a school garden. People were saying it was a school garden, and they were talking in the community, and it was all fun and well as I was getting donations of seeds and some potting soil and a few you know, shovels and rakes and this, that, and the other. But then it started getting out of control, where I was getting monetary donations, I was getting gift card donations. I had people coming in and because they heard I was starting a community garden, and I went to my principal and I'm like, look, you need to put something out in the newsletter. You need to tell these people that this is Mrs. Mumford's classroom project. It's not a school garden. And she said, yes, it is. And you're starting a garden committee, and we're going to pull these people in. And I said, okay. Okay, I'll do it. So we planted lettuce and radishes and beets and carrots. Pallets are about 8 inches deep. I saw pictures of it. It looked like it was possible, and lo and behold, it was. And then we started getting produce, and I had parents say, well, why don't we have a salad bar at our school? And I said, I don't know, never really thought about it. They went to the school board, they asked for a salad bar, we got a salad bar, we started, so our produce goes to the salad bar. One thing led to another, donations kept coming in. We had garden beds that were donated, we had wine barrels, the green and black barrels became a container garden, we started an asparagus garden. Those were from cattle ranchers, they were feed supplement barrels. These barrels on the right-hand side, these black ones, are worm bins. This little guy above, who is now in 6th grade, his neighbor was really into vermicomposting, which I had no idea what that was. So he brings this worm bin to school, and I'm like, what do we do with it? I don't know what to do with it. So what you do with it is you compost food, and the worms eat the food, and then you have this amazing fertilizer. So we started a recycling program with our school cafeteria, where we're now recycling cafeteria waste, and I have teams of kids that go in every single day, collect that, and feed the worm bins. Which I will say, I was not successful my first year doing this. This is our 3rd year, and it's things are flowing and going. You start off small, and then trial by error, but it's all coming together. And so when I went to a Good Teaching Conference a couple years ago, I heard at the tail end of the conference, somebody mentioned something about an IFT grant, and I go, oh, I think I've heard about that. I think another school in our area got one, so I went home, got online, saw the school that received it, contacted that teacher, talked to another teacher about a school garden, and at this point, all I wanted to purchase was a tool shed to put all the stuff that was in my classroom, and I'm not kidding, shovels and rakes and potting soil. My room was like a wood shed. And so I'm like, I need a shed, and if I got a shed and I got this grant, maybe I could buy some like utility bags, and the kids could have all their tools, and I could buy gloves for them. And so wheels started turning, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna tell my story, because the school garden didn't seem original or something wow, you know. But I thought, I'm gonna make a difference. These kids love it. I've been seeing results, and I've been hearing from families how they love it and they want more of it. They love their kids outside, working in planting and doing all these things. And that's where a lot of things cannot be measured with just data. So a lot of character issues, a lot of kids going home and starting gardens with their families, was really just a positive influence. That things that I did not foresee, things that I didn't anticipate. I did ask my administrator for a day off to write the grant, and I argued that a $100 sub was definitely worth a $5,000 grant, and should I not get it, there's no guarantees, you can take a sick day. And so when I told him that and we talked about it, he thought, all right, you know, you've already gotten this far, I'll give it to you and we'll see what happens. What I should have asked was for a second day at the end of the school year when I had to report all of this out. And so I'll be smarter about that, and that might be something you want to consider. It doesn't hurt to ask to have a day off, even if it's just on site. You know, you have a sub, I'll go in the library, I'll type this up, I'll get it done. Have your administrators proofread, edit, and have their buy-in as well. Joel covered the matrix. One of the things with the garden and it being work-oriented and student-driven is the kids that are not necessarily successful in the classroom excel outside. They excel in the garden. Parents who would never come to school and volunteer except for maybe to correct papers they're outside. They are like, how can I help? What can I do? How can I be involved? What I found is that one thing led to another, and it went from I know so-and-so to the church that rents out our multi-purpose room on Sundays, seeing our school garden. She works at a nursery. This lady contacts me, we'd like to donate to your school garden. To my friends, my daughter's friend's dad owns U.S. Agri-Seeds. Hey, we'll donate a bunch of seeds. Hey this, hey that. Our local integrated waste management company does assemblies in the classroom. and specifically on vermicomposting and school recycling. So they came out the first year and did just my class, and now we have them doing it school-wide. And then they had received a grant for recycling, and so we received a bunch of recycling containers and started a program called Garbage for Grads, where we pay it forward all year and we recycle, and they collect it, and it goes towards their 8th grade graduation trip. We've had family work days. This is the book Growing Home, and I have that in the table in the other room. And purchasing that literature set, reading that book, having the author come in and talk to my kids was so inspirational. My kids wrote her a thank you note, and she hand wrote every single child a postcard. And they were heartfelt. It wasn't like just thank you for writing to me. She asked them how they would continue the story, if she did a second book. She shared her stories of loving to write as a child, and she has started a program in our local area, a community garden in Paso Robles, and I think our school's going to get on board with her and help her. So that's why it's prepare for the unexpected, because what I anticipated with just starting a class project, it has far outreached what I anticipated. These two little guys with the orange buckets right there, they are grafting apple trees. And that came out of an interest that I had and dragged my husband to a class at Cal Poly. They hosted in February. In fact, they'll be doing it in a couple weeks. And he begrudgingly came with me. And then I could not get him to leave. And so it was what they call a scion exchange, where they exchange first-year growth of different apple trees, walnut trees, fruit trees, and then they teach you. They have a grafting clinic. So the president of that company, the organization, we left members that day too. We signed up, joined, and we go to all their events. And I said, could I bring this into my classroom? You go into the high schools in the county. Do you think 4th and 5th graders could do it? I won't give them the grafting knife, but what do you think? And he's like, oh, totally, absolutely. He told me how to do it. We set it up. Every single one of our grafting trees for these kids took and grew. And my deal was their parents had to come to open house in May, so I had 100% attendance. They came and they got their apple trees. We had extra produce, and we did some juicing activities in our classroom. And I could go on and on about the other partnerships that we created in our community and with families. This is what our school garden looks like. This was at the end of June. That PVC pipe is used to, we put bird netting over that. Birds are probably our biggest problem. But we have 3 different worm bins where we do the cafeteria composting. And I have kids that come from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade where they're coming back to me and they're like, can we volunteer? Can we help during our lunchtime? And really, the saying, dream it, believe it, achieve it, I threw apply for it in there because if you apply for it, that helps you achieve it. Money really helps make things happen. And what I found was that the IFT grant was the start of other people going, oh, I want to jump in, I want to help, I want to donate, where before I was scrambling to get wooden pallets. So I would just encourage you to take the time and apply for it. I've listened to the $20,000 grants because I'm like, well, how could I do a chapter grant? Which maybe I'll ask for 2 days off for that. But that'll be my next venture too. So good luck to all of you.
Learn more about the Institute for Teaching and its commitment to strength-based teacher-driven change at www.teacherdrivenchange.org and follow us on Twitter @CTAIFT.